Hello YouTube, welcome back. Chris here. I want to try something a little different this time. I've had a lot of people coming into my the bike shop lately and asking about purchasing bikes. Well, unfortunately, as a lot of you probably know, there's been a huge bicycle shortage this year, and it's really frustrating, especially as a bicycle salesman, when people come in asking to see and try bikes and get sized on bikes when you don't have anything to show and tell. So I wanted to try this here where I basically go on a manufacturer's website and talk about the product. Now obviously you guys can all do this at home. The nice thing is, some of you might not be super familiar with a lot of these technical specifications and what these bikes actually have to offer. So as a professional, I wanted to kind of walk through this with you and tell you some things about these bikes as opposed to you just looking at them on your own. So let's get started. For my first episode of this series of videos I plan on doing, I'm going to do a very popular bike, an up-and-coming category for Specialized. This is the Specialized Sirrus X. So right now the page I'm on is going to be the Specialized Fitness Bikes. Right at the top they have a promotional video here about the Sirrus X, as it is one of their newest models and probably the most hyped model in the lineup right now. As we scroll down here, you can see it's the first category, so let's go ahead and click on that and take a look at what they're offering. So right away we see they're offering 3 different levels of Sirrus X, ranging from the Sirrus X 3.0 to the 5.0. These are also, I should mention, are 2020 bikes. There are 2021s in the pipeline. I don't know that much about them yet, so we're just going to show these for now, but this stuff will likely change soon going to 2021. Let's start with the Sirrus X 3.0. Now, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about this category. This is kind of what you would call maybe your dual sport category, kind of your on-road, off-road. It's a little bit more off-road oriented than your fitness hybrid. It's going to have a little bit more relaxed geometry on it, a little bit bigger tires, more off-road capable, a little bit more beefy frame, and some of these do have some suspension component to them. This category has gotten super popular in that a lot of people are looking for a hybrid where they can kind of ride anything, maybe short of like single track mountain biking. This bike will do crushed limestone trail, hard packed dirt, fire roads, grass, obviously pavement, but can really handle almost any kind of terrain you want to throw at it as a recreational rider. The other thing I should mention is this bike is a newer model for Specialized, and it is phasing out, to the best of my knowledge, phasing out the cross trail. Now the major difference between your Sirrus X and your cross trail had a dedicated suspension fork on there. A lot of people tend to be going away from that strategy as it adds a lot of weight and bulk and is kind of a shorter travel anyway, and makes the bike kind of clunky. So this bike is a little bit more lively, a little bit quicker, lighter weight, and sportier, but still has some cool off-road features to it. So again, first off, Sirrus X 3.0. This bike here retails in the US for $850. They do make it in 2 color options. I know certain areas of the world they don't offer all the same color options, but here we have a black with storm gray and satin black reflective lettering. They also make this in a dusty lilac with storm gray. Dusty lilac, super cool color. I like to call it your grandma's lipstick. It's kind of that dirty, dusty, matte pink. It's not a super girly pink. A guy could definitely buy this bike if they're looking for something a little more flashy and not as conservative as a black bike. These also both have hints of storm gray. You can't see it super well in this photo, but it kind of outlines the lettering. They also have stripes of it down the back of the frame, and the chain stays and seat stays, I believe. And they also do the storm gray on the black as well. Keep in mind, storm gray, they call it gray. It's more of a blue. It's like a darker or a dark bluish gray color, but a great accent color and a really nice color indeed. Goes well with both these frames. These bikes both come in 6 different sizes, ranging from extra, extra small all the way to extra large. And if we get down here into the specs, number one, you'll see it's a full Specialized A1 premium aluminum frame. So you're going to have the full body of the frame here, aluminum. This bike also has an A1 premium aluminum fork. So the front end here, if you're not super familiar with bike terms, that's called your fork. That does your handling and your steering. It's all aluminum on this bike. As we move down into the more drivetrain and brakes, our brakes are Tektro HD R280 hydraulic disc brakes. So it is actually a hydraulic line on this. You have a fluid reservoir up here full of oil and a line down to your brakes. The reason they're doing that, especially on a somewhat off-road oriented bike, a lot more braking power, a little more confidence in cornering, accelerating, decelerating, downhilling, stuff like that. So definitely a more superior braking system than a mechanical disc brake, or definitely more so than like a rim brake. Becoming more and more popular on recreational bikes to have disc brakes, and especially hydraulic disc brakes. So great feature to have, and you do get that at your $850 price point on this bike. When we get into the drivetrain here, micro shift Advent 9-speed for the shift levers, rear derailleur, and your cassette. Micro shift, a little bit newer player in the game. Honestly, at a price point like this, I think it's a fantastic option. Works really well. Definitely rivals the Shimano stuff at a little lower price point. Another cool thing to point out, it is a 1x setup. So you have 1 ring in the front and 9 in the rear. So you have a 40-tooth chain ring on the front and an 11-42 in the rear. So a nice wide gear range, but the simplicity of just having to shift 1 derailleur. No front derailleur on this bike, just 1 shifter, 1 derailleur, 9 speeds. That's all you need. And it'll give you a full gear range from a nice high sprinting gear to a nice low climbing gear. Another cool thing about this micro shift, it is a clutch derailleur. What that means is there is a clutch on the derailleur that you can flip that makes it get nice and tight. The reason you do that, it tightens up your chain, then you don't have all the extra chain slap and slack, and much less chance of dropping your chain off that front chain ring due to this bouncing around in an off-road setting. This bike has 700C wheels, as is typical with any hybrid bike, 6-bolt disc, and when we get down to our tires here, this is a huge selling point of this bike, and one reason this category is growing so much, and I would say will, in my opinion, soon be more popular than your typical Sirrus bike. 700 by 42 millimeter tires. Pathfinder is a great on-road, off-road tire. 42 millimeter width is definitely not as wide as like a mountain bike tire, but some great, nice, wide tires, good traction, good confidence in cornering, in handling, looser terrain, off-road, a little bit of wet conditions. This tire will do just fine and give you a lot of confidence in riding this bike. As we move down, they do have the full geometries listed here if you want to geek out and get into this stuff. I'm not going to go through that with you, but if you want to look at it, of course, Specialized.com, you can see this all right here. So let's go take a peek at the next model. The next model is one that I get really excited about here. This is a great bike. I had the privilege of building a few of these and selling a few of these before the bikes all ran out. This is your Sirrus X 4.0. Number one, I love this color. The navy with satin white mountains, highlights, and black reflective lettering. Really a good looking bike. They also do make this bike in the storm gray, which is that bluish gray, with rocket red and black reflective lettering. This bike retails in the US for $1,250, and sizing, just like the 3.0, ranges from double extra small up to extra large. Big differences with this one. The frame, pretty much going to be the same thing, aluminum frame. Big difference here is going to be your fork. So this is a full carbon monocoque fork with the Future Shock 1.5. And what that means is you've got your aluminum frame, but this part up here, this fork, is carbon fiber. And you have a suspension component here called the Future Shock. Now, why they do that? Carbon fiber, a little bit lighter weight, and most people think that's why the main reason for using carbon in a fork, and honestly it really isn't. The biggest reason for it is going to be vibration dampening. Carbon fiber is a composite, it's not a metal. It doesn't take vibration and transfer it from the road up through your bike, into your hands, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, your back, etc. So it makes it for a very smooth ride, takes all that micro vibration out and just makes it real easy on the body. Number two, this little component here doesn't look like much, but this is a suspension component. Future Shock is something that they started using on their endurance road bike, the Roubaix. Crazy popular on that bike, and as well as their gravel bike, the Diverge. The Future Shock is a staple in the Specialized lineup, a very popular feature. Really makes the bike ride nice. Very subtle suspension, much more subtle than a big clunky fork like you find on the typical cross trail hybrid bike, but enough to take the edge off, make it easier on the hands, wrists, elbows, and just a really smooth ride when you hit a jarring pothole or a large crack or something. It really will make a difference for you, and super, super popular. As we move on here, our hydraulic disc brakes are upgraded to Shimano BR-MT200s, so just a little bit nicer set of hydraulic disc brakes from Shimano on the bike. Our drivetrain components, we move to Shimano Dior 10-speed. So that's going to be a 10-speed shifter, a Dior 10-speed Shadow Plus rear derailleur, and a 10-speed cassette. Now this is actually a typo here on Specialized website. They put chain rings as 44, 32, 22. That is not true. This bike is a 1x, so I think they just had a little typo there. It's one ring in the front. I don't know the exact tooth count. I'm guessing it's around 40 or 42 teeth. And you do have a 10-speed Shimano Dior rear, so it's going to be 1x10 on this bike. 700C wheels, as is typical with hybrids. Center lock disc brakes, which is more typical with Shimano components. And you have your Pathfinder tires again. Now, one difference here, they do put a 700 by 38 millimeter tire on this bike as opposed to the 42. I don't know 100% why they have a different width. Maybe they're figuring a little more expensive bike, a little more serious rider, maybe wants to go a little bit faster, but still a nice wide tire, plenty of confidence in cornering, gripping looser terrain, wet conditions, all that. And keep in mind too, you're not married to this tire size. You could put something wider on this. I think you can go up to a 700 by 45 on a bike like this, and same with the other bike. You could go smaller too if you wanted a 38 or 35. They will fit just fine. These are just what comes with the bike. Again, your sizing chart, and that's all for the 4.0. The next one we'll look at is going to be your flagship Sirrus X, the Sirrus X 5.0. This is an absolutely fantastic bike. Might be a little bit too much bike for some people, as it does come at a little bit more hefty price point. This is a $1,700 bike in the United States. Comes in two colors. This looks black, but it's actually a cast blue. It's a really deep navy with hyper. Hyper is a specialized name for the high visibility yellow, and of course the black reflective lettering, as is typical. This bike also comes in sage green with aqua and black reflective lettering. Sizing on this bike is slightly different. I don't know 100% why, but instead of doing a 2 extra small to an XL, they do an extra small up to a 2XL. So you can actually get this model a little bit larger, but not quite as small as the other two models available. If we go down to the specs here, right away, our big difference is the frame. This is a Specialized Fact 9R carbon frame, so full carbon frame throughout, also paired with that same carbon monocoque fork in the Future Shock 1.5. So just as I mentioned with the vibration dampening in the fork, same goes for the frame. Full carbon frame, very vibration dampening, also very light, lively, and stiff, and at the same time compliant. What I mean by that is it's typically going to be stiff side by side, great power transfer through the cranks and pedals, and compliant as in up and down, meaning it's easier, a little bit more flexing your chain stays, seat stays, so it's a little easier on the body here in the rear. But super vibration dampening while being light, lively, agile, and quick. This bike here has the same Shimano hydraulic brakes as the 4.0, but a big difference in the drivetrain. We go up to a Shimano SLX 11-speed setup. So 11-speed shift lever, 11-speed Shadow Plus rear derailleur, 11-speed cassette, and a single chain ring, as is typical with your Sirrus X product range. basically what you're doing, just adding more gear in the back. Now, as you go up the lineup of Shimano components, you're not just paying for one extra gear. You do get lighter weight components, a little bit snappier shifting, a little bit more confidence, and quicker, easier, smoother shifting in the bicycle as well. This bike also comes with your 700x38 Pathfinder, but these are the Pathfinder Pro, and good to note they are tubeless ready. So if someone's a little bit more serious about their off-road riding with this bike, and is probably gonna, it might take this to more almost to a gravel bike level. Nice to have those tubeless ready tires. All you gotta do is change out the valves, put some sealant in, and you can ride this bike tubeless. So this bike is definitely going to be a little bit more serious than the other ones in the lineup, as it is getting pretty close to rivaling one of their endurance road bikes or gravel bikes in that full carbon frame with all these nice features. But a fantastic bike nonetheless, as all of these Sirrus X's are. And definitely one that I highly recommend, especially if you live in an area with a little bit more of a suburban or rural terrain where you may encounter a little bit more off-road as opposed to just city streets. So that's all I've got for this one here. I hope you found this informative. If you have any questions about any of these bikes, please don't hesitate to ask. I know a good deal about these, and I'm happy to answer anything. Also, if you have a bike that you want me to do a video like this on, and keep in mind I'm not limited to brand and that I can access anybody's website, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I'll do one of these videos on any model from any manufacturer. So that's all for this time. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to make some more videos, and we'll see you next time.